Jan Ullrich and Ivan Basso came to the Tour de France as the two big favourites to win it, but they're both out before the race has even started, as two suspects in cycling's biggest ever doping scandal. Hello from Strasbourg, welcome to ITV's coverage of the 2006 Tour de France. And I suppose the first thing I should say is that there will be a 2006 Tour de France. It'll be setting off, though, with the smallest field for over 20 years. Instead of 22 teams and 198 riders, we've got 20 teams and 176 riders. It's been a brutal cull this week, and one that's cost the Tour some of its top names. But the hope is that it will prevent any more fallout on this race, at least, from a doping investigation, which, even in a sport which had its fair share of them, has to be the biggest in cycling history. Enough blood to run a medium-sized haematology unit and keep Dan Brown in conspiracy theories for a 6-book deal. But the blood in these bags, nearly 100 of them, was seized by Spain's Guardia Civil from Eufemiano Fuentes, a Madrid doctor with a long list of cycling clients and a code system a 7-year-old could crack. The raid, part of a long-running Spanish investigation called Operation Puerto, also found transfusion equipment and a flying pharmacy of performance-enhancing drugs. That was in May. Since then, the rumour mill has been on double shifts. Nearly 60 cyclists were said to be implicated, including some of the biggest names in the sport. On Thursday, the biggest names in the sport turned up for their pre-tour medicals, apparently without a care in the world. Germany's Jan Ullrich and Ivan Basso of Italy, outwardly concerned only with which of them would succeed Lance Armstrong. But by yesterday morning, the rumours had solidified into a 500-page report outlining the criminal case in Spain. First to go, under pressure from his sponsor T-Mobile, was the 1997 Tour winner Ullrich.
Ja gut, das Einzige, was ich sagen kann, dass ich geschockt bin, dass ich nach wie vor nichts mit diesen Sachen zu tun habe, dass ich Opfer jetzt bin, einfach, dass ich dieses Jahr mich vorbereitet habe, wie noch nie, eine Bombenform habe, jetzt es nicht fassen kann und heulen könnte, dass ich nach Hause fahre mit der Höchstform. Das ganze Team ist natürlich deprimiert, haben auch schon in Erwägung gezogen, nicht zu starten. Da habe ich aber gesagt, jetzt erst recht, die sollen für mich mitkämpfen. Ich werde jetzt ein paar Tage Ruhe für mich brauchen, weil, wie gesagt, das ist das Schlimmste, was mir in meiner Karriere bis jetzt passiert ist. Bin absolut unter Schock und werde ein paar Tage für mich brauchen und werde dann mit meinem Anwalt versuchen, meine Unschuld zu beweisen und werde auf alle Fälle weiterkämpfen. Aber momentan bin ich natürlich ziemlich am Boden.
Kicked out along with Jan Ullrich were his coach Rudy Pevenage and teammate Oscar Sevilla, another alleged client of Dr. Fuentes. Back at Tour headquarters, the heavy report was being hurriedly digested at a meeting of all the team bosses. But by lunchtime, Bjarne Riis's star rider Ivan Basso, who destroyed the field in his home Tour of Italy this year, was gone too. Like Ullrich, innocent until proven guilty, but sufficiently implicated by the Spanish police report to be unwelcome at the Tour.
Well, he says he's innocent, and okay, and I think we as team believes him until something else is proved. But still, we need to send him home, and because it's a situation that is far too difficult to be able to ride a tour in. So.
Everybody talks about how close a relationship you have with Ivan. Surely you must have your own beliefs. I mean, do you think he could possibly dope without you knowing?
So, I cannot see that, but I don't know. I certainly don't hope so. I can, of course, not follow the riders 24 hours a day.
What about the public? They're looking at this race, this great race they turn out to see every year. What do you really think they're watching this year?
I don't know. I mean, I hope they'll watch the race.
But is it a race they can believe in?
I certainly hope so. Certainly hope so. I mean, sometimes it's of course difficult. Sometimes it's also of course difficult for us to believe in it, you know. But it's our duty. It's our. We are here. We have to take it as our job and go forward and show to everybody that the work we are doing is the right work, and there will be consequences if somebody do something else, and I don't think you can do any more than that.
By the end of a frantic day, Basso and Ulrich had been joined on the blacklist by Francisco Mancebo, leader of the AG2R team, and no fewer than 5 of the Astana Vert squad, including Australia's Alan Davis and Spain's Joseba Belocchi. That effectively disqualified the whole team, something the Tour have been hoping to do ever since Manolo Saiz, the man who owns and runs it, was arrested as part of the original police raid. And with Astana Vert went another Tour favourite, their leader Alexander Vinokourov, implicated nowhere but caught in the crossfire. So 13 riders out, plus the entire Comunidad Valenciana team who had their invitation withdrawn last month. It looked like the Tour's darkest day since 1998, when the entire event threatened to collapse under the weight of the Festina drug scandal. But race director Christian Prudhomme preferred to see Black Friday as its bravest.
Je voulais vous confirmer notre volonté réaffirmée de lutter ensemble contre le fléau du dopage. L'ennemi, ce n'est pas le vélo, l'ennemi, c'est le dopage. Le sport cycliste est un sport absolument merveilleux, avec des coureurs méritants, avec de grands champions, et nous entendons bien que demain, chacun puisse rêver avec ses champions.
Some riders went further than Prudhomme. Britain's Tour debutant Bradley Wiggins was positively upbeat.
I think it's brilliant, really. I was the only one. Well, I say I was the only one. It was our team was just sort of. I think it's great. I mean, it's about time we sort of got rid of some people like that. Sort of a chunk of people that are doing it, whether they get proved guilty or not. I think there's a certain amount of suspicion, and there's no, you know, we have to wait and see. Obviously, there's going to be massive implications now on court cases and things like that, legal battles. But you know, there's no smoke without fire, as they say. And for people like me who sort of, you know, train 100% every day and go back to England and sacrifice a lot in life to be at something like the Tour de France, and it's good. Just hope that it goes on, and some people have got the balls and the bottle to stick by it and start sentencing people and dragging more people out. And I take my hat off to the sort of the big sponsors like T-Mobile on that, have took a stand and taken these guys out of the race.
Well, no one's in any doubt what Bradley Wiggins thinks. Joining us on the Tour, as usual, is Chris Boardman. Chris, what do you make of this whole sorry mess?
Well, it's a nightmare, really, isn't it? It's exactly what you don't want to happen. People have been pushing hard for so many years to try and clean it up. And I think what this says is whatever measures you're taking, no matter how much passion there is behind it, they're not the right measures and it isn't working.
Well, what are the right measures?
Well, the only thing I can think of, and clearly I'm no expert, is that the things that we've seen brought to light in the papers were things like blood doping that were very fast action, can be taken in, can be put back. So you must test in the period of the race. That's the only solution that I can see.
By which you mean what? After the riders have already turned up for the start?
Well, it would seem logical that you test either just before the start or you test immediately after the finish. That's going to cause some serious problems when somebody's just come out of the mountains, but these are things that have to be faced.
Now, some people try to put a positive spin on it and say, well, it's really good for the sport in that we're tackling this problem head on, but those are the same sorts of things that were said 8 years ago when the big drug scandal hit the Tour in 1998. People watching at home have got a right to say, what exactly is it we are watching?
Well, I think that they're quite right. I mean, this is something that it's clearly not working, measures that have been taken. I think it's worthy of note, though, that there's 50-odd names on that list in cycling, or with it came up in this investigation. There's 150 from other sports, so this is a sporting message, and it really needs to address this.
Yeah, just to play devil's advocate the other way, and we should stress for legal reasons, Jan Ullrich, Ivan Basso, all the rest of them have not been convicted of anything. Elsewhere, there's a presumption of innocence. On the Tour de France, you can be excluded for being part of an investigation, and presumably they would say that's unfair.
Yeah, and I think this is an unusual situation because they have an option here where blood products have actually been found. So people's actual blood, that could be linked to them. They can just say, hey, I'll take a DNA test. It's a cotton wool swab in the mouth, 2 days, and you know the score. And I can't really understand why that option isn't being brought right to the fore.
Well, it may be one that's discussed in the very near future. Now, to get some idea of the scale of the impact on this year's race of the exclusions, all we have to do is look at last year's top 5, because not one of them is starting this year's race. Lance Armstrong has now retired, of course. Basso, Ullrich, Vinokourov and Mancebo have all been excluded directly or indirectly, so the ranks of the contenders now look very different indeed. Without those 5, America's Levi Leipheimer is the top-place rider from last year's race, with Denmark's climbing specialist Michael Rasmussen behind him in 7th. and Cadell Evans of Australia, an impressive 8th in his first ever Tour. Also impressive in his first Tour was Spain's Alejandro Valverde, who beat Armstrong to a stage win in the mountains before injury forced him out. Floyd Landis is another American who should be able to compete. He was 9th in last year's race. Then there's Armstrong's old team Discovery, which could be a three-headed monster without the boss. Jaroslav Popovic was best young rider on his debut. Paolo Cebaldelli knows how to race a Grand Tour, already having won the Giro. And George Hincapie, freed from service to his retired boss, fancies his chances as well. As far as home interest goes, we've got two British riders in the race this year, Bradley Wiggins and David Miller, who back before this week's madness kicked into high gear was the biggest drug story on the Tour radar, albeit a story of redemption. David Miller's 2-year ban for using EPO ran out just 8 days ago, so his first race back is the biggest possible return under the greatest possible scrutiny. But Miller understands the need for that scrutiny and the repeated declarations of contrition that go with a comeback like his.
I want to be what happened to me to be a positive story, if you like. You know, I f***ed up. I made a lot of mistakes. I got a lot of regrets. I cheated. I lied. I'm the one that has to live with that. I've got the regrets. And I think cycling as a whole has done that for years. And perhaps I would like to be, to a certain level, a flag bearer for the future of cycling. It's not going to happen overnight.
Of course, the irony of David Miller's drug ban is that he's been able to focus all his energy on this 7.1-kilometre prologue without the distraction of race commitments. It's flat, wide and should be fast. As we pick up the action, the fastest early finisher is the German rider Sebastian Lang of Gerolsteiner. Your commentators, as always, are Paul Sherwin and Phil Liggett.
Didier Roos, the man we're looking at here, though, is a seasoned campaigner. He's been around for an awful long time. He is a rider who knows how to ride a very good individual time trial, but he's a man, I think, that the team will count on over the opening stages.
Well, he's approaching 36 years of age now, but he has been second in the recent national time trial title. He was third in it, second in it the previous year. He's been the road race champion of France. He's a quality rider, Didier Roos. He's had one win this year, but that was in the mountains, in the Alps, in fact, the Trophée de Grand-Père, the trophy of the climbers. And so let's see what he can produce here. But looking at his face, Paul, I don't think we're going to see anything sensational, but it won't be a bad time.
Well, that's a typical face for Didier Roos. He is a tough professional bike rider. He's looking to beat the time there. You just see of Chris Horner slipping by. He may well just stop the clock inside of the top 25. There it is, 22nd place, just 17 seconds adrift. That's not a bad performance, Phil.
Well, still no change. This is the way it's been now for the best part of half an hour here. It's still Sebastian Lang, the German champion, 8:21.8. Stuart O'Grady of CSC, the Australian rider from Adelaide, 8:21.93. Desperate, that, isn't it? 1300ths of a second, if that's the way it finishes. And Vladimir Karpits, the Russian rider, who is in 3rd place, and he's at 5 seconds slower. They're the top 3. As we continue now to look down at the action, this is Igor Kamano, I think, of Euskadel Euskadi.
Yep, that was, and this, in fact, is Big Maggie. The riders call him Magnus Backstead, and not a bad ride for Maggie. He's trying to get himself over a lot of injury in the early part of this season as well. Not going to set the world on fire, but a fairly consistent performance by him. He's the rider who will mix it up in the sprints a little bit later on in the Tour de France. Magnus has won stages. He was the first Swedish rider ever to win a stage in the Tour de France, and I remember him crossing the line, and he scared us all in the commentary position when he yelped for joy as he crossed the line in 1st place.
How's the route? How's the course?
It's quite a nice course, actually. Technical, but at the same time you can go quite fast on it. So, well, yeah, I think it's quite a complete thing.
The heat, is the heat making a big difference?
Well, you can definitely feel it. But it's sort of hard to breathe a bit, and you know, that sort of thing. But and again, we got to put up with this for 3 weeks now, so might as well get used to it.
That's what I hear. I hear it's going to be a hot Tour de France.
Yeah, it'd be nice. You know, I'd rather ride in hot than in rain and cold.
After all that happened yesterday, is it good just to get back out on the bike?
Well, it's good to be back out on the bike full stop for me. After having all my injuries and that this season, I'm just enjoying every minute I can on my bike now.
Brilliant, well done.
Thanks.
Cheers, thanks.
I'm Dave Zabriskie, and the Tour de France continues after this break.
welcome back to Strasbourg. David Miller is just about ready in the start house, and Bradley Wiggins will be starting 1 minute behind them. Let's hear from them both now about their chances.
This is my first tour. I'm in as good a shape as I'm going to get. I've certainly made a big progression over the last 2 years from Athens, from the Olympic Games, and I'm sort of ready to do 7.2 kilometres tomorrow as fast as I can do. Now, where that's going to put me, I really don't know. I've no expectation on what place I can get. I don't know, really. I don't know what my best ride where that will put me in something like a Tour de France Prologue. You know, it's the biggest bicycle race in the world, and could be first, could be last. Really, I don't know, and I don't think I will know until the race is over and that result sheet comes through.
I'm pretty relaxed. It's quite strange. I'm not at all nervous. You know, I'm so confident in the work I've done. There's nothing else I can do. You know, if I get beaten, I get beaten by people who are better than me, and I'm secure in that. So I'm going to enjoy riding fast. I haven't ridden fast in 2 years, so it's going to be good fun.
David Miller now lines up for his new team. 5 days ago, he was ending a 2-year suspension, confessed for taking drugs. He has felt himself a cheat. He now wants to come back, and he says he can show us what he can really do. Well, there's no doubt in my mind Miller was wrong to take drugs, and he should never have done it, because this boy is a class cyclist.
He is a class act, Phil. I wonder what was going through his mind as he came off the starting ramp there. 2 years of purgatory he's been through. Now he has to prove to the world that he's a clean bike rider once again. This is Cloden. Not a bad ride for Cloden as he comes up into the finishing line. He's not going to dethrone Sebastian Lang from the top of the leaderboard, but he will finish at the moment in 12th place.
As we go back out then to David Miller, Miller knows he can win these Prologue time trials. He won the opening stage a couple of years ago. In fact, in all, he's won 3 stages of the Tour de France, 2 of them time trials. He really should have been the winner of the Centenary Tour in Paris a couple of years ago. He pulled his foot or unshipped his chain and lost a few vital seconds. In the start house now, we should see the departure of Bradley Wiggins. There he goes. Well, Wiggins chasing David Miller, the only 2 British riders in the Tour de France, chasing one another over 7 kilometres. They are both specialists at this, and either one of them could win the day.
They certainly could. The man we're looking at, though, I think is a super specialist at this distance. Wears number 139. Wiggins has grown up on the tracks of the world, whether it's been Greece, whether it's been Manchester, whether it's been a World Championships. He knows how to put the effort in over this very short, violent distance of 7 kilometres. It is a specialist thing, and if there's a specialist left in the world to replace Chris Boorman, he has to be the man at the moment. But he has to come up to the mark at the Tour de France.
Well, he was awarded the OBE for his brilliant Olympic Games. He got a gold, silver and a bronze medal. And now he wants to find that sort of pure speed and try and take this. But I think this might be the new best time, Paul. This is now the arrival of Paolo Savidelli on Lance Armstrong's team. Of course, Armstrong watching like everybody else today on television. And Savidelli is racing up to the line. He's aiming at 8:21. It's going to be very, very close to Paolo Savidelli. He could be the best time here. He's going to be the first man for an hour to dislodge Lang. Paolo's, oh, he isn't. He's slipped away. But that's a huge effort as Savidelli hits the line in 3rd place.
3rd place for Paolo Savidelli. I bet you for a moment there he thought he was going to do it, but that's an indication that the man from Italy has got the form. A great ride by Paolo Savidelli, but you know what, Phil, it's an awful long way, that last 200 metres from that last bend, and we're seeing so many riders just starting to crack. And in a prologue like this, if you crack, you lose yourself 4 or 5 seconds, and a second can win this race this afternoon.
Well, at the moment, 13/100ths of a second is winning it, because that's the gap between Lang and O'Grady. As now back in the house here, we go to Thor Hushovd. Well, the God of Thunder rolls off the start ramp. The man who became the first Norwegian rider to wear the green jersey and win it last year in the Tour de France.
Big strong boy as our Thor Hushovd. We'll see him do battle on the flatter stages as well with the likes of Robbie McEwen and Tom Boonen. But for the moment, we're seeing the finish line here of Egoy Martinez, a different Martinez, Jose Alberto Martinez. Not a great ride by him. He's faded a little bit over the last 4 kilometres. This is turning out to be a very warm afternoon here in Strasbourg, and that may well be the difference between winning and losing. We've seen riders' bodies react very strangely to the temperature, as Martinez here, for me, Phil, has slipped away and not produced the performance he produced in the month of March in the Criterium International.
Well, there's his time, 48th place. I'll tell you what, Paul, Serge Lang is going to feel very excited now. He's just seen a big man there in Sabadelli not match his time.
Well, this is the champion of the world. This is Tom Bonen. This is the man we'll see battle on the individual stages. And you know what? This season, he actually hasn't done too badly in a number of prologues out on the course. So it'll be good to see what he's going to do, because he too will be thinking about the yellow jersey a little bit further down the road. But this is David Miller. We're trying to see what the time of David Miller is going to be at the half-distance point. He's coming there now. And you know what? David Miller is not too far off it.
We're looking here now at the arrival of Zabel, 8:34, and the clock is Kuiping.
Well, Phil, I don't think Miller's going to win the prologue this afternoon, because he's actually gone through the 3.6 kilometre mark. There were a very lowly 46th time, 8 seconds off the lead. But, you know, he's a specialist. He could possibly pull it back as Zabel stops the clock inside the top 100. But Eric, I don't think he'll be too worried about that.
And I don't think there'll be too many people too happy with that time of Miller either, Paul, because Valverde. That is a very slow time. As we watch Alessandro Valverde here, one of the big favourites for final victory. He's wearing the white jersey as leader of the season-long Pro Tour Series, which he's led this competition for quite a while now, as he makes his start. 167th out of the 176 riders to go, so 9 men are still to go here.
Big Tom Bonen out on the course too, looking pretty good. You know, Bonen this year has actually performed fairly well in a number of prologues. I don't think Tom Bonen is going to be too far off the lead, because he too, you see, Phil, will be thinking about the possibility of maybe wearing the yellow jersey for a couple of the flat stages before changing it to his main goal here at the Tour de France, and that's the green one.
Well, this is Big Tom, 17 wins this year. He is the world champion. He'll pull that jersey on tomorrow. We're just waiting for Wiggins' time. And a 4:14 for Wiggins, so he also is off the pace, Paul.
It's a big surprise to me, because a lot of these early morning times, and I've been keeping a very close eye on the wind, and I have to say, Phil, I now think the wind and the breeze is starting to pick up for these last few riders, and that could be very crucial to the early starters. This is Damiano Cunego, a former winner of the Giro d'Italia, a youngster out of Italy who could very well be their new star of the future as well. Had a very bad year last year with glandular fever, mononucleosis, but he seems to be now on the way back.
There's the situation at the moment.
Yep, Sebastian Lang, best time, 8:21, almost exactly the same time of Stuart O'Grady, separated by hundredths of a second. Salvadelli slotting in there now for 3rd place, but we are now starting to see a few different names creeping in. We're at the prologue time trial here at the Tour de France. We're looking here for the start of Floyd Landis. I think we're looking for the start of Floyd Landis, because this is rather a surprise that Floyd Landis seems to have gone somewhere else. The team car of Floyd Landis is there. Landis, I think, has missed his start. He has to go through the starting gate. He's come up at the last possible moment. I've seen this happen before. This will be a massive panic now for Floyd Landis, because he will see himself losing a certain number of seconds. I think he lost himself between 5 and 10 seconds there, but that is a real professional mistake. He should not have made it. Neither should his team. Well, Phil, I've seen it before. Pedro Delgado has done it. So many riders have done it. And, you know, in this modern day of technology, everybody's got a pretty decent watch. You've just got to go to the starting house and set your watch to exactly the same starting time as the starters have, and you shouldn't miss the start like that at all.
Well, I'll tell you what, as we're looking here at Tom Bonen, Thor Hushovd has just gone through the halfway with the best time by 2 seconds quicker than Postuma. Now, that is a bit of a surprise, to say the least, but not as big as the surprise concerning Floyd Landis.
Well, I'll tell you what, the time of Thor Hushovd is going to make a lot of people very happy, and this is the arrival of David Miller. It's not going to set the world on fire here this afternoon, because it's around about 20 seconds from this last bend to the finish line, but he started his comeback, he started his attempt to convince the world that he's back and he's clean and he's good.
Well, the thing is, 2 years out, cycling moves on. It's all well and good training and training hard, but competition is being missed here by David Miller. he'll get better, and he might be good for London in a year's time when the Tour starts. He's produced something 9 seconds slower. He's still 7th overall on his comeback day.
Phil, that's not bad with 2 years of no competition in your legs to come back and do a performance like that. He's now got to settle down and think about how to get through the big long stages that are going to face him over the next 3 weeks.
David, how was that?
David, how was it starting the first Tour de France?
Oh, it was great. I loved it.
How did you feel right away, David? How tricky was it?
It was just great.
Technical course.
Yeah, it was quite technical actually, but it was strange riding on closed roads.
And you?
I don't know, I'm just so happy to be here. This is great. I'm not even disappointed. I'm just happy to be here. And I had a great ride out there, and perhaps I underestimated the difficulty of it, but you know what? I got to be happy just being here and just feeling that good all the way around.
Does it feel like a big burden's been lifted off your shoulders? You're back into the racing peloton and here at the Tour.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a burden. It just feels right being here. I mean, this is something I've been dreaming about. It's like I'm actually living a dream. You know, I dreamed about this a year ago. It's great.
Denny Menchoff here, who won the Tour of Spain last year on the disqualification of Roberto Heras, now making his start. The big Russian could be a big challenger in this year's Tour now. He's en route.
Well, he's en route, he's on course. He too could be a very massive favourite as we go a little bit further up the road. I just had a quick calculation, looked at my watch there as we look at the back here of Damiano Cunego. I think Floyd Landis lost himself around about 8 seconds with that late start.
Yep.
That could be vital at the end of the day.
Well, I heard the actual bleep go on the clock, and he wasn't even in the start out, so I'd say you're probably about right there.
Alejandro Valverde has just gone through with the same time as Torhushoff. This is the man who has this year won the Flèche Wallonne and, of course, Liège-Bastogne-Liège. He's regarded as the new best star for Spain. He's wearing the white jersey as leadership of the Pro Tour. This man is absolute class, Phil. Another rider from Spain who has not at all been implicated in what we know as the Operación Puerto.
Well, Alejandro Valverde, now back to Levi Leipheimer anyway. I will talk more about Valverde in a second. Leipheimer goes now. The Gerolsteiner, he has become a hot favourite in the last 48 hours to win the Tour de France, the American. He's just won the Dauphiné Libre race in fine style as a preparation race for this. Leipheimer now is also a great prologue rider.
You know, a couple of years ago, people said this was not a strong team, Team Gerolsteiner, but this year, Phil, they've had a brilliant season. They've won on all fronts. They started the year off well in the Tour of California. Levi Leipheimer won the prologue there over just 3 kilometres, but he's come to the Tour de France, I think, in the best condition that he's ever had.
Well, Wiggins has just crossed the line. Our cameras aren't under our control, of course, but he's crossed the line and taken the 7th place finish at the moment. He'll be disappointed with that, but in all honesty, his form has indicated a ride of that nature throughout this season. So he sits in 7th place at the moment. Now here's the man who might reshape this leaderboard. If his start hasn't been too quick, he's still a way to go, and he's got 20 seconds to get in. But Hushoff is riding, and I think he may have slipped away here.
It's going to be very close, Phil, because it's around about 20 seconds from that final corner there. You can see the team manager in the car behind is going to be ballistic. It could be either way by a couple of seconds. It's going to be Thor Hushoff.
It's best time for Thor Hushoff. He's held it. He's held it by 4.8 seconds. A new leader. We've waited an awful long time to push Serge Lang off the top of the leaderboard, and it's the man who won this race on points a year ago. 8 minutes 17 puts him 4 seconds better than Lang and O'Grady on the leaderboard, and there are still 11 riders to finish.
Hi, I'm Cadell Evans. You can see more from the Tour after the break.
David Zabriskie won both time trials in this year's Dauphiné Libéré, the biggest pre-Tour de France test, and he did that on one of these. Now, the time trial, David's speciality, has always been called the race against the clock, the race against time. Well, in my opinion, it's really a race against aerodynamic drag. And the Cervelo machine is the most advanced bike in this year's Tour de France to counter that, and I'll show you why. The handlebars have been reduced to the thinnest wing section. Even the brake levers have been taken down to this tiny, tiny profile.
These bits here, well, that's to help the rider stay in a very, very tucked position because they are over 80% of that frontal area. We move back, we can see some of the detail. All the cables have been pushed inside of the bike's tubes. The chain rings flattened off into a disc, so no rough edges in the airflow. The seat tube has been completely re-sculpted to follow the rear wheel, to keep that out of the wind as much as possible.
Well, win or lose, from what I've seen here, David Zabriskie is one workman who won't be allowed to blame a poor performance on his tools.
We go back down to the starting gate. World time trial champion now. 3 riders from the end. Michael Rogers, he's been the world time trial champion for 3 years. Now he's lining up for the Tour de France as possible co-leader of T-Mobile. For him, this is a big rendezvous.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, Paul, as we look at the start of the world champion here, Floyd Landis has gone through the first check at 3.1 kilometres, 8 seconds slower than best time. We've estimated he lost 8 seconds.
Well, that makes him right up there with the leaders. It's all about how you finish this race off. Tom Boonen's coming up here. He's not going to rival the time of Thor Hushovd, but it's going to be a good time for this sprinter. Boonen has a very strange style indeed, but I tell you what, when this man wants to go fast, get out the radar gun.
Well, he's put himself in the frame for a yellow jersey in the next few days. A 7th place time for the world champion on the road, Tom Boonen. As it's all action out on the course now as these riders battle. Christophe Moreau, the leader of the French AG2R team.
Well, all of the big names are now starting to line up here. There's not very many riders left to come. We're looking now at the second rider from the end in the starting gate, Dave Zabriskie. Out on the open road is Christophe Moreau. Zabriskie last year was a bit of a surprise winner. This year he's got a big name tag on his back and he's a favourite.
Well, a big start here now by Dave Zabriskie, Paul, as he rolls off that start ramp. We switch back to the man who could again reshape the finish here, the arrival of Valverde. He was tied with Hushovd. Is he going to pip him? And I think the answer is no. If Valverde has slipped away and is dropping out to possibly third as he crosses the line. Well, Thor Hushovd could be shaking the foundations of everybody.
He could be creating a little bit of a surprise here this afternoon. The man known as a sprinter, as big and powerful. The man we're looking at here, though, Dave Zabriskie, is one of the most aerodynamic riders in the professional peloton naturally. He just seems to have the ability to get himself tucked right in there. See how close his arms are in the middle of the handlebars? Nicely arched back, the helmet built into his body. He's going through this road like a man possessed.
And back to the start house. The last man to go in today's stage of the Tour de France is George Hincapie. Rider 176. This man knows he's capable of great things. Last year, remember his brilliant win in the Pyrenees. Well, now, can he come home with a prologue time?
Big pressure to start last man in the Tour de France. He's replacing the man who retired at the end of last year's Tour, Lance Armstrong. But this man knows how to rise to big occasions. First chance to see here Floyd Landis. Phil, over 3.6 kilometres. He actually basically did exactly the same time as everybody else. He lost himself 8 seconds getting into the starting gate. Also a little bit of panic too, but he's ridden the first 3.6 kilometres as fast as Thor Hushovd.
And this is Damiano Cunego heading up towards the finish. We must put it into perspective here. Floyd Landis is not damaging his overall hopes in the Tour de France, but I think he might well have cost himself a victory in the prologue and a likely first yellow jersey. We'll know in a couple of minutes. This is Cunego coming up to the line now at 8:57, 118th.
That is a long way down for Cunego. He obviously too is thinking a little bit further down the road. Now this is Floyd Landis. The time to beat on the finish line is the time of Thor Hushovd. You know, Landis is going to rue the moment, Phil, that he missed that start, because he is fairly close to the top end of the overall classification, and he started with an 8-second handicap.
Landis comes up to the line in the 5th best time, 9 seconds slower than Hushovd, and we think about 8 seconds late out of the start house. He would have been right in the podium board, but that's not to be, and he's pulled out something very special. The adrenaline, Paul, must have been pumping out of him.
It must have been absolutely pushing around his body. Thor Hushovd is now right at the top end of the overall standings. Langer has now been pushed down into second, 4 seconds in the rear, but this is Dave Zabriskie. Look at the way he goes round those corners rather tentatively, probably thinking about the team time trial last year.
Exactly.
When he crashed out of the yellow jersey.
Exactly. In the house finished 8:17 is Thor Hushovd, 4 seconds quicker than Lang, Valverde and O'Grady. This man is out to upset all of that now. He won a little bit longer. It was 19 kilometres the prologue last year in the west of France that opened the race. It's only 7 today. First chance to see Cadel Evans here now, a man who's thinking long term, the Australian rider from Victoria, who has had such a wonderful season. His first Tour de France last year, he finished 8th. He's staying right up amongst the front runners now as he races to the line. 10th best time for Cadel. That's a good start for him.
Hi, I'm Floyd Landis. More from the Tour after this break.
Look at the speed that Michael Rogers took that corner. This is a man who's a specialist. You've got to be pretty good to handle these bikes, by the way, because these bicycles are hybrids. They're not meant to be maneuvered round corners fast. They're supposed to go in a straight line. Once you come to the level of the sport that Michael Rogers has come, you've learned how to make yourself at one with this bike. But I tell you one thing, ever get a chance to ride one, they're pretty weird.
Well, Michael Rogers has been known to fall off in time trials. I wouldn't wish that on him right now as he races up towards the line. He's going to be very, very close because he too is free to fly now in the absence of Jan Ullrich.
4 seconds off at half distance for Michael Rogers, 9th time, but it's all about the last 4 kilometres as far as I'm concerned. Dosing your effort to perfection. Zabriskie has gone through with almost the best time. Zabriskie is a second off at 3.6 kilometres.
Yes, he's gone through with the 3rd best time, a whole second off the pace. That is nothing. He can lift that. As we watch Menchov coming up towards the line now, he's not a time trial specialist, a good climber. Comes up 50th finish so far for him. We have now just 5 riders left to finish, and Thor Hushovd is still top of the leaderboard. But Zabriskie looks likely to be the challenger as the cameras switch now to Levi Leipheimer, who is the 5th rider on the road and the next man due in at the line.
Leipheimer using a massive gear here. Look at the crowds. I think the crowds have taken most of the oxygen away from these riders this afternoon. He's looking now at the time of Thor Hushovd. 8 minutes and 17 is the time to beat, but it's a long way from this corner. It takes around about 15 seconds, so he's not going to do that. So for Leipheimer, he's opening up his account here this afternoon. Let's not forget, as you said, not losing the Tour de France here this afternoon, but certainly not winning the prologue.
So Leipheimer comes home, stays up amongst all of the men that matter in the Tour de France over the next 3 weeks. He's just letting himself be known. He is in this race for sure. As he just gets inside the top 30. No, he doesn't. 31st place for him.
Phil, George Hincapie has just gone through 3.6 kilometres with exactly the same time as Zabriskie, exactly the same time as Thor Hushovd, and almost the same time as Alejandro Valverde. It's all going to be very, very close on the finish line.
Yeah, well, no, he's 1 second slower than Hushovd, but that doesn't matter. He can pick that up with a little bit of luck. He's the same time, though, as Zabriskie, that's for sure. Here comes Christophe Moreau. Once won this prologue time trial when we were over in Dunkirk when the Tour de France started there. It's not going to be today, though, because his time will run out. But it's another good ride by Christophe Moreau. He's changed teams this year. He seems to have found his old form, and he's riding much, much better. I think we'll see a lot of this man during the Tour de France, but it won't be on the podium today.
It won't be on the podium here this afternoon, but it's a good indication, the prologue time trial, of how the big contenders are doing. Stops the line there in 12th place. Not very many men left now can stop the man at the top, Thor Hushovd. Thor Hushovd now has probably only got to wait, Phil, for around about 3 minutes to see whether or not he's going to be the yellow jersey here at the Tour de France this afternoon, and that will be quite a surprise.
Well, here comes Michael Rogers, the world champion. Now he's out, not on the leaderboard in the first 5 riders at halfway. It's going to be a very good finish. I don't think he'll reach Hushovd, but he's not going to be far away. He's got 15 seconds. It's a long ride up from this bend, but Michael Rogers has come to the Tour de France in tremendous form. This is the best we've seen him for years. He's racing up to the line. He can see the clock like we can. Is he going to make it? He's just going to be outside as he comes to the line. But Michael Rogers has given us a world time trial performance today as he slots in 4th position for the world champion.
Great ride by Michael Rogers, just 6 seconds adrift. This is the last man on the road, the man who won a stage in the Tour de France last year, right at the summit of one of the biggest mountain passes. George Hincapie now riding on his own, closing down the opening day prologue of the Tour de France, representing Lance Armstrong, the man who won the race last year for a 7th time in succession, and he's not too far off the leaderboard at the top at 3.6 kilometres. He was only 1 second adrift. This is the arrival of Dave Zabriskie. It's all still going to be so very close, but I don't think Zabriskie's got enough time to get to the finish.
Well, he's gritting his teeth and he's concentrating. He's just looking at that finishing line now. He knows this could be a blink of the eyelid, could decide this race. Thor Hushovd, the former champion of Norway as a time trialist, once an under-23 world champion. Is he going to hang on and beat Zabriskie? It looks like it's going to be a lunge for the line. It's gone. It has gone by as Zabriskie races home. He drops in second place. There's the margin. He lost time, in fact, over the last half of the race, and Hincapie has got him in his sights. Now, this might be more dangerous. Hincapie may have stayed better.
Well, Hincapie's still got a fair way to go to the finish. He knows the time to beat now. He will have heard that over the race radio in his helmet. He's got to beat 8 minutes and 17 seconds. This could be the one, Phil, because he's coming into the little S-bends now, right down towards the finish. He's got this right-hander, then he's got the left-hander. It's around about 20 seconds from the left-hander. Look at the face, the concentration now on George Hincapie. He goes around. This is going to be an awful lot closer.
I think that Hincapie could be the man to spoil the Norwegian party here. This has been, he stayed the distance much better than Zabriskie. Hincapie has just got to that small amount of 10 seconds to the line, but I think it's close, but it's there. He can see the line. Hincapie's pulled this one out of the back. He's going to have to push over the line. He's got a second to do it. It's gone on the call. Less than 1 second. George Hincapie won't believe he's grabbed his helmet. He's looked at the clock. He's lost that time trial by 73 hundredths of a second. The victor is Thor Hushovd.
And there's the official result. Hushovd on the same rounded-up time as second-place George Hincapie, with last year's opening day winner David Zabriskie third, and Alejandro Valverde, not known as a time trialist, fifth. Back in 8th, Floyd Landis came in 9 seconds down on the winner, almost exactly the time he lost by turning up late to the start house. I don't think we've heard the end of that. Tom Bonen's impressive 12th place gives him a chance of challenging Hushovd for yellow tomorrow. Just a second between Bradley Wiggins and David Miller, but neither of them ever in the hunt for the win today. Jaroslav Popovic is already 20 seconds behind Hincapie in the race to claim leadership of the Discovery team. Worst of the contenders was Michael Rasmussen, 158th, 48 seconds behind the winner. Mind you, Thor does outweigh him by about 20 kilos. Just wait till they hit the mountains. For the moment, though, the green jersey winner of last year's Tour is the first yellow jersey of this year's. Graham Bell spoke to him.
How much of a surprise was this Prologue win?
It was a surprise, but in 2004 it was almost the same kind of Prologue, and then I was fifth, so I know I can go good. So I have prepared quite good to this Prologue, and today I just got paid 10,000 times much than I expected. So this is just fantastic.
It's a great start to the Tour de France. You're wearing yellow now. You're probably more known as a sprinter. Are you going to fight to defend the jersey?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had a goal to do a good Prologue, to have a good start, and I just want to, for sure, want to defend this jersey. But when I came to the sprint, I want to win a sprint, try to beat Bone, make you in this guy. So we will not change too much, but it's just like 100 times better to ride with this jersey than the normal one.
Well, Chris Boardman, we've got Thor Hushovd as the Prologue winner. I suppose the big question is he a plausible winner?
I think he very much is. If we go back and look at his pedigree, he was actually taken on to the Credit Agriculture team when I was there as a young lad, because he'd won his national championship, because he was junior world champion. So the pedigree is there, but in recent years he's pushed back towards the sprinting side of it.
Even in this year's Tour, he's not going to win the overall thing, though. From that Prologue, is it easy to extrapolate, and what did you think about the leaders' performances, the contenders?
Well, in his particular case, I think it's fair to say that his green jersey will always remain his target, and he's just said, hey, look, I'm in great shape. For everybody else, well, they were pretty much all there. Everybody that we expected was there, and the